Hey, oh my gosh. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you. It's very beautiful too. Thank you. Well, thanks for welcoming me to your lovely facility. To your town. I've been here many times before. I did a lot of the Sisters of Avalon record over in Hendersonville. I drove down your highways to study with David Schnaufer, who was a professor at Vanderbilt also. I think it's such it's about time I actually made a country record. I've done dance stuff here and, some kind of Appalachian stuff, with David Schnaufer. But it was kind of exciting to come here and make a record that's an homage to country. It's all kind of my favorite singers. And I saw the documentary Nashville Cats, and I kind of felt like, oh my God, I'm missing out, And I just want to say that it was actually Seymour Stein's idea to do this kind of an album. I wanted to work with Seymour Stein forever, and I finally did that. That was on my bucket list. In 1990, I sang with Katie Lang, and she said, "Oh, there's a little country in you. I know there is." And I finally, after all these years, got to, sing. And it's a real singer's album. I realized when I was singing it that I kind of heard some of these songs growing up on my Aunt Gracie's transistor radio, a little black and silver radio over the refrigerator with the antenna out, and it was always like Patsy Cline or Loretta Lynn, or I just think though that you should know that when I was growing up, Patsy Cline and Loretta Lynn, although they're country stars obviously, as a kid they were just stars, and as a kid they played everything on AM radio. Sorry to say that some of you guys weren't even a twinkle at that point, but we used to listen to everything all together, not in a little compartment. So for me, Patsy Cline was a glamorous, almost like a movie star, and Loretta Lynn was glamorous, and she had she'd wear a hat sometimes, and it was very, she was a TV star. So, it was fun to do some of the stuff, and I was lucky to have all the wonderful people that I worked with, from Tony Brown, who put the band together and was my producing partner, William Whitman, who I dragged him down to do this too. The poor bastard. I dragged him a lot of places. Since 1983, I've been pushing him into all kinds of things, but he always makes the music sound so alive. And the band that played with me, and of course the wonderful guests like Vince Gill, who, you gotta hate him. He's kind of perfect, he's the sweetest fellow, and he actually is a shredder on guitar. Not many people realize what an extraordinary guitar player he is. And he has a voice like butter, and he writes, and and he has a great vibe. And I had asked him to come in and help me lay down the track for Detour, because I knew he would have that cowboy swing thing. And actually, when he played the solo, it sounded like Christmas. And maybe that's because, my mother always bought that style of Christmas record, or when I was a kid, that was very popular. I don't know, but it was also his vibe. And he made that track come alive. And between him doing Detour, and then we did You're the Reason, Our Kids Are Ugly, which when I was growing up, everything, country music was funny. It was funny, it was soulful, and there was a time when country music and soul and R&B walked hand in hand. Around the time before and after Elvis Presley kicked the doors in, and that's what so says Seymour Stein, so I went with that. But he's right. And that's why some of the songs I chose, like Misty Blue, which was a hit in 1962 with Wilma Burgess, and then 10 years later was a hit with Dorothy Moore, shows how close those two genres really are. So that's not really the long and short of it yet. I can make it much longer. Also, I had the pleasure of meeting Emmylou Harris way before I actually started the album, and I had come down here before and spoken with her, and she actually cooked me dinner. I ate dinner at her house. I couldn't even believe it. I was trying to go gluten-free at that moment, but she had this kind of African stew, had a little weed in there, but I didn't care because it was Emmylou Harris, and she made like a refrigerated cake. It was something like that. I wasn't going to say no. It was her, so I had a little piece, and, but I was fortunate enough to have her come and sing on Detour. I kind of knew that she was right for that, and it would be fun. And if she ever puts that band together where women go on the bus and travel, I'm in. And that's how we started talking, except I want to film it. Because, right, would you want to see what goes on, right? Bunch of divas in a bus, come on. Right, so, anyway, so from that conversation, it kind of spilled into I was doing this record with Seymour, and then she came and sang on Detour. And then, of course, Willie Nelson, that was a trip. But amazing, amazing. This is a man that wrote 300 songs. Of course, Loretta Lynn, she wrote a lot of songs in her lifetime, too. I just felt, I waited for him in the front because, I was welcoming everyone that came, and he came in the back, of course, with the bus, the legendary bus. I don't know if you guys, maybe so they invited me on the bus and I couldn't go because I had to work, and I was worried about, like falling asleep and waking up in Austin, which is a good adventure, but not right for what I was doing. So, I said no, and I kind of felt bad a little, but he was great, and he sat down, and see, Nightlife, when I heard Nightlife, it's such a great melody, and it's just a beautiful song, and simple. And, of course, when you first start singing it, every bad jazz riff goes in there, and you realize you don't have to put anything in. It's already there, doll. Just back off and sing it simple, And he loved what we did. I could see it in his face. He remembered the song, it was like a piece of his life. And when he sang it, you'll hear it when he sings. It's not just, oh wow, that's Willie Nelson. It's just very soulful. And so I was really blessed to have him sing with me. And of course, Alison Krauss. See, I met her once because, you have to do the Grammys or this or that. And I saw her once and I said, hey, that was really a great track. It's such great talent, And then, of course, we started, when it came down here, I met all these different people, and one of the guys was this guy, Buddy. We don't know, I'm not good with last names, but he's a great producer, and he works with everybody. And he was working with Allison and said, hey, I met Cyndi, she's down here, she's in the studio with Tony, and blah, 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 blah. So we started texting, and I said, hey, big fan, do you want to sing on my record? And she was like, oh, wow, sure. I was so flattered. And I was like, you kidding? So she came and she sang, and, you know, of course, she sings like an angel. She could sing the phone book, and it would be mesmerizing, you know, because of her voice. And then we were talking, and see, I wanted to do this song, Cowboy Sweetheart, because for two reasons. You know, the history of women is, I mean, I know, I'm talking about the history that I know from talking to my mother and my grandmother and her mother and her mother. At first, especially the turn of the century or in the 1800s, you didn't get education. The education you got was how to cook and clean, which being from a Sicilian family, they were still spreading that around. You know, like I was going to cook and clean. And I said to myself, for you, maybe. No, I do that. Of course, you're going to do that for the rest of your life. But the way it was always presented was you weren't going to really do this or that, you know. And when I heard Cowboy Sweetheart, you know, what women did after a while, I guess, was they married the guy that did the thing they wanted to do, or as close as they could get to it because they couldn't. And when I heard that, you know, because it's twofold. You laugh a little because she says she wants to be a cowboy sweetheart and then never mentions the guy again. You know, she'd rather sleep, you know, pillow her head neath the sleeping her. So basically she's saying she wants to sleep with the cows, but not him, because he wasn't even in the equation. So I started laughing and I thought, oh, okay. And so for two reasons I wanted to do that. And then there was great yodeling too. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I could yodel, you know. And then I was told, well, yeah, we'll get you a teacher, and, you know, Peter Gabriel learned how to yodel in 3 days. And I thought, okay, you know, so I tried, and of course I can't yodel like that in 3 days. You can't, that takes a lifetime. So I remembered that Jewel said she yodeled, you know, the Jewel. So I asked Allison if she might know Jewel. And she said, yes, she had this number. So I texted Jewel. And I said, hi, is this Jewel? This is Cyndi Lauper. Big fan. You know, if this isn't Jewel, well, then just chalk it up as another crazy text. You know, and then she texted back and said, yes, this is Jewel. And, you know, and I said, do you still yodel? And she said, well, yes, and that's an unusual question, but okay. And I said, well, I'm doing this thing, and blah, blah, blah. So she came down and yodeled. It's got to be one of my favorite parts of the whole album, just when I said, take it, Jewel, you know, and she starts yodeling, like, incredibly. Anyway, maybe that's the long and short of this record, I don't know. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do a project with Seymour Stein. I did. I've been coming down to Nashville for many, many years to make music, just not inside the city, and not the kind of, you know, record that I made. I was busy working on, you know, dance music, because there's a lot of other music that goes on in Nashville besides, you know, country. And I've always been a bit of an outsider, so when I did this, I didn't, you know, do this as, okay, now I'm going country, you know, because I'm from New York City and I have a French accent. It's not going to work, you know, here. But I was really, really pleased and blessed, I think, to work with everyone. The musicians on this album are great. You guys should cherish this music community that you have. There are not many places in our country that have a music community anymore, but this place is a music community, and it was kind of great to be part of it and work among you for the time that I did, and I had a great time, and I'm hoping to make some other music down here with a few friends, and guess that is the long and short of it now, mostly the long. Any questions?
Do you, after the album comes out, do you have dreams of playing the Grand Ole Opry?
Yeah. When I was here in '84, I walked the streets, in disguise, of course, but I saw the old Grand Ole Opry and all the pictures on the outside, and of course, as a kid, I always saw Minnie Pearl, and loved her. And so, hell yeah, I'd like to. Sad it's not in the same place, because I think as a singer, there's so many voices that rise up to the rafters, and I think the sound just stays there and sweetens all the other sounds that come along. And I think that as a singer, when you're standing on a stage, you kind of feel all that. So it would be cool. Maybe I'll get a little hat with a tick. I'm not sure.
What about playing the Reinvention?
Well, I am. I'm touring the album, and I'm going to play the Ryman. That's the first gig. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I'm going to tour with Boy George. 6 dates with Boy George. It's going to be fun. Now he has a good country voice. He has a really good voice. Well,
when did you know that you wanted to finally get a country album, or an album with a country feel?
Well, these are all old country classics, Well, when I started talking to Seymour Stein, there were actually 2 different projects, and this was one of them. And I thought that this one would suit me better, because the other one might have dealt with some, foreign languages. I could see that you're bilingual, which is a great gift. I'm not, so I would have to be doing it all phonetically, and I just thought, what about English? That would work.
So Mick Jagger will be performing in Cuba March 25th. Will you be interested in going down and do a concert now that the relations between the two countries have been reestablished?
Who's going down?
Cuba.
No, who's going
Mick
to?
Jagger.
Really? Oh, wow. Alone? Down with the Rolling Stones?
I don't know.
Because that would be a riot. The Rolling Stones? Wow. I don't know. Sure. I've always wanted to see it. Remember the Buena Vista Social Club? No, I used to listen to that a lot. Not that I understood exactly what was going on, but kind of,
Well, I didn't know English when I heard you on the radio, but I love your sense.
It's music. Well, thanks. Yeah?
You teamed up with Willie Nelson on his Gershwin tribute record.
Yeah, that was the deal.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's a stretch. When? I was like, okay. Nobody ever asked me to sing on their record.
Yeah. That came out, just in February. Did you do your record first, team up with him and do that duet, or did you do his first?
I had to get a lot of tracks done, and then after he left, I went into his studio, into a different studio at the Sound Emporium, and did his track. Well, no, they just brought it over, because it was at the end of the day, so he ended the session and did his song. So, it was pretty interesting, because, when they said it's a Gershwin song, so I'm thinking, and then when they said it's let's call the whole thing off, you say potato, I say patata, I'm thinking, oh, does that have something to do with my accent? So it kind of made it a little like the jazz that I studied, because for a while in jazz you always, there's the masters, and Ella Fitzgerald is one of them. So, and Louis Armstrong, and when I was growing up, I was listening to Louis Armstrong and Fats Waller, and they always commented while they sang. So I put a little of that in. I allowed myself to, used my accent, and then sang what I thought would be appropriate for a Gershwin song. And I think it worked out. I mean, and then I got to sing with him live for his, they honored him in Washington. And it was pretty interesting, It was kind of great. He's very in the moment, which is very jazz.
Was that the first time you performed with him? Was in Washington? That's great.
Cyndi? Being a master of reinvention, is there any fear or hesitation when going into like a new project? Because you could sing anything.
So says you. I don't know. And Seymour said that, and I was like, well, it was just that I felt like I missed out on stuff. And, the whole job of becoming famous is it could take away from what you might want to do musically. And since 1989, after 1989, when I kind of went to hell in a handbag, I figured it didn't matter. And I could do what I love to do. And I could be myself. And I don't think that worrying about, you gotta try. It's always sink or swim for me anyway. And I didn't know when I was singing with those guys, the first song, I stunk. I was awful, I thought. But I felt that because I couldn't connect with them, and I had to understand how I was going to connect with them. And, I worry every time. I never think I have qualifications. But then I think, well, if you were busy counting your qualifications, you would never try anything, So I keep trying. I've been fortunate that my fans, God bless them, I dragged those poor things with me through hill and dale, and they still follow, which is wonderful of them. And how you gonna know what you could do if you never try something new? That's how I'm thinking. No, and you won't grow. That's what I'm thinking.
Thank
Does
you.
that answer your question?
Yes, that was great.
Okay.
Cyndi,
Yeah.
right here in the back. You talked about performing with Boy George. Does that mean Boy George on the show is going to take some of the Vince parts on the music?
I'm trying to talk him into that. I don't know if he's going for it. We're going to do a duet, but, I thought that would be pretty funny. But I have no idea what he's going to do. It has to speak to him. He might come up with some obscure thing, it'll be fine. I would love for him to do that, because that's very funny. But, gotta see. He's a funny guy.
Over here. Speaking of collaborations, I know Steven Tyler's recently gone country. I think it would be amazing to see you two perform together. Do you think that's a possibility?
I never thought of that, but everything's a possibility.
Y'all got awesome hair. Y'all would just totally
awesome
on
Well,
stage.
thank you. Yeah.
And also, real quick, a friend of mine, he's a close friend of mine, it's a producer, he said your song Girls Just Want to Have Fun, that his godmother, Ellie Greenwich,
Ellie Greenwich.
She
sang background.
Yeah.
She wrote that part. Girls, they want to have fun. And she
Okay.
said to me, Cyn, use your accent. I said, what accent? No, but, that's what in a stairwell we did it.
That's amazing.
She was actually, I would talk to her occasionally when I had a second, but she was, a lot of the reasons that I pushed to do stuff was because of her.
Really?
She told me her story. And I guess on the shoulders of the older artists, you grow. But because of her story, I made sure that I was credited. I always fought to write. I wanted to be credited. And I wanted to produce and be credited. Because Ellie Greenwich produced a lot of stuff and was in credit. So she was really a very, very talented woman.
We have time for one more question. Bev, did you have one?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Cyndi, about the album title, Detour. Did you come up with the song first or the title first? How did you come up with that?
No, I wanted to do Detour. But, you know, Seymour sent files and files and files, right? And then there were publishing companies that started to send cases of CDs over. You know, so I was like, you know, but I listened, and I really loved the idea of Detour. And I just loved the Patti Page version. And Detour came first, the song. And then, you know, I was thinking, oh my God, what are you going to call the album? How are they going to know what it is? And they're not going to know it's country, you know. Because when I did the blues album, the record company president kept going to me. It was a small indie label, and he's saying, you know, you have to tell them what it is in the title. I said, well, it's a blues album. It's in Memphis. It's from Memphis. And I said, oh, how about Memphis Blues? So it's Memphis Blues, so people know. Then I'm thinking, what are you going to call it? Nashville? I was like, And I was thinking, it's another detour, Sin. It's yet another detour. And then I started to get all the crazy images in my head with the sign and the road and the, you know. And I'm really happy to be on Sire. I always wanted to be on Sire. And maybe it's 20 years later, but better late than never, you know? So yeah, I thought a detour. It's another detour. And in life, there's many detours. But sometimes they're not bad to take. This was a good one.